Often throughout history, we face stories and encounters so strange that the facts concerning their case and the rumours that would arise from them seem to blur into an almost supernatural cause that leaves experts scrambling for any possible explanation. In an effort to shed light on some of these strange occurrences throughout history, today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be going over 5 unsolved British mysteries that cannot be explained and are still widely known to this day. The Green Children of Woolpit. During the reign of King Stephen, within the 12th century England, one of the strangest stories of an ancient lost human civilization deep within the earth seemed to emerge from a small village in the middle of nowhere. According to records made in the 12th century, a report tells of a strange pair of abandoned children that had suddenly appeared in the small village of Woolpit, located within Suffolk, that led to many of the local residents questioning the nature of the children and their origins. The immediate cause for the questioning was due to the fact that the 2 children both had dark green skin, completely inhuman in nature, and spoke an unexplainable language that none had ever heard before. According to the 12th century documents that detailed the fate of the children were recorded to have been spotted by a group of villagers out in a nearby field, located alongside a wolf pit that had been dug to get rid of the wolves in the area, as the villagers had been working on that year's harvest. The villagers all noted that the children had unexplainable green skin, spoke a strange unknown language, and wore clothing that was completely unfamiliar to anything any of the villagers had ever seen before, though the exact description of the children's clothing is unknown. Fearing that the children were orphans or had come from a land that had recently been attacked, the villagers brought the children to the home of a man named Richard de Calne, of whom accepted to adopt the children as their foster parent. Richard de Calne, however, noted that the children refused to eat any kind of food offered to them as it was unfamiliar to them as food. It was due to this that the 2 siblings became malnourished and terribly sick. It was not until de Calne offered the children a form of raw broad beans that the children started eating. Unfortunately for the boy, however, he would pass away shortly after. The girl would go on to recover and eventually lose her green colour as she got on a far more natural diet. Over the years, she learned English and began to tell the villagers where she and her brother had come from. According to the girl, she and her brother came from a place known as St. Martin's Land that was always in twilight and never had any stars or a sun in the sky. This led many of the villagers to believe that the siblings came from some underground lost civilization, as she told that she only came to the village after getting lost in a cave with her brother and finding her way out into the village of Woolpit. The Howden Moor UFO crash. Located on the border between South Yorkshire and the Derbyshire Peak District is a strange place known as Howden Moor, a name that has, in the modern day, become synonymous with unidentified flying objects and government conspiracy cover-ups dating back several decades. On the 24th of March back in 1997, shortly after 10 p.m, the local police were flooded with frantic phone calls of a peculiar sighting that many believed was evidence of a possible plane crash in the area. According to eyewitness accounts, a large triangle-shaped unidentified flying object had been seen hovering overhead near the dark peak of Howden Moor shortly before 2 loud sonic booms were heard by the callers. Fearing the possibility of a plane crash, the Royal Air Force began a night-long search for the supposed crashed aircraft that involved the use of helicopters, 150 mountain rescue volunteers, several police-trained sniffer dogs, and countless other military and police personnel that joined in on the search. Official reports claimed that no evidence of a plane crash was found and that no strange incident was ever recorded. Interestingly enough, conspiracy theorists would find overwhelming eyewitness evidence of the event, alongside evidence of police treating the calls with utmost severity, with possible evidence of a cover-up for the incident. Unfortunately, nothing more would come of the event and no further evidence has been found. To this day, no one truly knows what happened on the night of March 24th back in 1997. Who put Bella in the Wych Elm? Seen as one of the biggest mysteries surrounding the United Kingdom, the question who put Bella in the witch elm has gone on to directly impact popular culture and leave many wondering what really happened back in 1941 involving an unsolved homicide case that detectives were a little too quick to dismiss. Back on the 18th of April in 1943, located on the Hagley estate belonging to Lord Cobham near Witchbury Hill, 4 boys found the decomposed remains of a human body stuck inside the hollow trunk of a large wych elm tree. This led to an immediate investigation made by the local police, who used the help of Professor James Webster, a forensic examiner, to better deconstruct the nature of the killing and locate any clues as to how the murder took place. He found that the body belonged to an unidentified Jane Doe, of whom had been strangled given the evidence of pieces of a taffeta discovered in her mouth. Webster then concluded that the body was most likely placed within the hollow trunk of the tree while it was still warm, and the killing had been fresh due to the fact that rigor mortis, once set in, would prevent it from having been stuffed inside the trunk. Unfortunately, the police were unable to identify the body of the woman, and so no further action had been taken when it came to the investigation of the murder of the Jane Doe, and the murder was immediately deemed a cold case. It was not until 1944 when a strange graffiti message popped up related to the mystery that said, "Who put Bella down the wych elm, Hagley Wood?" Not only did this help give investigators a clue as to the identity of the individual, but it showed that a secret conspiracy had been brewing amongst anonymous individuals keeping tabs on the investigation. Shortly thereafter, police were able to identify a missing woman from a 1944 report concerning a prostitute that had worked on the Hagley Road, reportedly having gone missing back in 1941. Unfortunately, given the nature of the woman's line of work, the police would not continue an investigation into the matter further. Today, the answer to the question who put Bella down the wych elm remains a mystery. The Hampton Court Ghost. Located in the borough of Richmond upon Thames resides a palace that has been considered the most haunted place in England for the past 400 years. Known as Hampton Court Palace, this palace has had more than its fair share of hauntings, gathered evidence and strange sightings that continue even to this day, dating as far back as the early 1500s. According to old legal documents, back in 1537, the wife to Henry VIII would give birth to the king's only son, Edward, at the Hampton Palace residence. Unfortunately for her, the complications of Edward's birth would cause her to pass away shortly after the incident while still on the palace grounds. Given the nature of the king's violent past and the abuse faced by the wife, it was believed that her soul is still trapped on the palace grounds and can be seen as a wandering ghostly apparition carrying a lighted taper. Additional ghost sightings were made following the execution of Henry VIII's fifth wife, Catherine Howard, back in 1541, after the Queen was charged with treason on the grounds of adultery with her cousin Thomas Culpeper. Shortly after her execution, numerous sightings had been made at the Hampton Court Palace that spoke of a wandering ghost without a head. Although many of these stories sound as if they are from the distant past during a far more superstitious era, in recent years, even more ghost sightings with pictures and evidence to match have been made surrounding Hampton Court Palace. One such story is told by the security personnel, of whom detailed that back in 2003, during a winter storm, 3 fire doors were being opened with tremendous force and causing the alarms to go off. When security tapes were reanalyzed, the image of a ghostly figure is seen opening and closing the doors across the palace. The Black Lady of Bradley Woods. Back in 1460, during the War of the Roses, a strange story was told that spoke of a young woodsman, his wife and their baby son that lived in a small cottage located within the Bradley Woods. According to the legend, the woodsman went off to fight in the Civil War to protect his home, and so every day the wife took the baby to wait by the edge of the forest to wait for the husband to come home. After some time had passed with no information of the returning husband, the wife noticed strange people, of whom were most likely the enemy army that were crossing the Humber. As she tried to race back to her cottage, she was attacked by 3 men who assaulted her and took her baby. In a desperate delusion, the wife then began searching everywhere for the husband and son all throughout the forest before collapsing from exhaustion. It's this story that has led to the myth of the Black Lady of Bradley Woods, a story that parents tell their children within the village of Bradley, Lincolnshire, with the warning that if their children are not in bed before dark, then the Black Lady of the Woods would take you thinking you were her child. But what do you think of all these strange, unsolved British mysteries that are still a puzzle in the modern day? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.